Islamic terrorism now comes to Boulder, Colorado. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, absolutely shocking developments yesterday in Boulder, Colorado. So let me tell you exactly what took place. And really, we have to start asking ourselves as a nation, as a country, and as a people, how much more of this are we willing to tolerate or accept? How much more of this can continue to go on? So, at approximately 1:26 p.m. local time, a group of pro-Israeli, they're not even demonstrators or protesters. These are marchers. It's a group of people, many of them elderly. Sometimes they bring their grandkids with them, but overwhelmingly they're between the ages of 65 and 90 years old. And every Sunday they will walk along near the pedestrian mall in the downtown Boulder, Colorado, where they are commemorating and they want people to still remember the Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. So it's not even a protest. It's not even a demonstration. It's literally a peaceful walk. These are peaceful walkers every Sunday, minding their own business, who are just walking to remind everyone and to commemorate and to keep remembering that there are still Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. At 1:26 p.m., as they approached the downtown courthouse, an individual who has now been taken into custody has been arrested. He is an illegal immigrant from Egypt. I want to stress this. An illegal alien. He was pretending to be a landscaper. He was there pretending that he was there to help with the grass or whatever, and he had multiple bottles of clear liquid on him. He then threw Molotov cocktails and turned these bottles into a makeshift flamethrower. He burned people alive. An elderly woman in her 80s collapsed to the ground, burning from head to toe. Others in the group, their skins began to split open and bleed from the intensity of the burns. There were children who were caught in all of this. The children were being burned. It was pandemonium. It was mayhem. Honestly, it was disgusting. And this animal was shouting, "Free Palestine! Free Palestine! End the Zionists! End the Zionists!" He also apparently, according to witnesses, shouted, "You like to kill children? You like to kill children?" i.e., I guess he's complaining about the way the Israelis are treating the children in Gaza, as he continued to burn them and attack them. Witnesses immediately responded, smothering the flames. Many of them ran to the nearby fountain and poured water onto the victims. The police arrived on the scene. This madman stood there without a shirt on. He was shirtless. A landscaper, tough guy. And they arrested him and put him on the ground. Here is a taste of what took place in Boulder yesterday. Roll cut 25, Mike.
Here, we can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing.
We can!
Not here.
Not here, bro. You're not.
He won't take the video right now. He was wearing an orange suit with something on his back.
Spraying alcohol.
Spraying alcohol, which made it look like it was very
He's making Molotov And for us,
Free Palestine! Zionists! And those Zionists! How many children you kill? How many? Okay, the guy's an animal. I'm telling you, he's a savage. He's an absolute savage. Now, here is the absolute latest. According to Boulder, I'm just going now by official media reports and what the Boulder police are now telling us. They say at least 6 people are very critically wounded. One, that elderly woman, is probably or may not survive. She has suffered terrible, terrible burns. Now, furthermore, on top of all of this, this animal, Mohammed Soliman, is an illegal alien. He came under Joe Biden. He came on a temporary work visa. He stayed beyond the temporary work visa. So he is in our country illegally. He is now on an unauthorized visa, meaning his visa is expired. He should have been deported. Let me just say a couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. It is no accident that this heinous, savage terrorist attack in downtown Boulder, Colorado, where Americans were burned alive, where Jews and Jewish children were specifically targeted, took place, just a week over. A couple who worked at the Israeli embassy were shot dead right outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in downtown Washington, D.C. It's no accident. Terrorism now, Hamas-style Islamic terrorism, is now here in the United States, and it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse and worse and worse. The Jewish community is now under siege. America now is under siege. Our streets are no longer safe. You can't go to a show. You can't go to an event. You can't go to the park on a Sunday afternoon with your children without now seeing people either shot dead or burned alive. Hamas is now here. And when these students on college campuses and in the media, and when you hear Democrats across the country say, globalize the intifada, this is exactly what they mean. This is the intifada. This is what Hamas means when they say the intifada. They mean shoot Jews dead. Burn Jews dead. Burn Jewish children dead. That's what they did on October 7, 2023, and that's what they are now bringing into the United States. And let me be crystal clear, because it is now time for some honest talk. Finally, let's stop with the BS. Let's stop with the constant lies. This is not Bibi Netanyahu's fault. Immediately on social media, it was incredible. It was incredible. The rabid left, the anti-Semites in the Democratic Party, the anti-Semites on social media. This is all Bibi. If he would just stop his war in Gaza. So let me get this straight. An illegal alien Muslim fanatic attacks innocent, law-abiding Jewish Americans and innocent bystanders. There were others around them who had nothing to do with the walk, including children. Get burned to a freaking crisp. Okay? Burned alive, barbecued. And this is Bibi's fault. Blame the Jews. Blame the Jews for when Islamists strike again on American soil. Again. Since 9/11, How many times do they have to attack us before we realize there can be no peace with radical Islam? There is no appeasing these Hamas animals. It is now time, as I said on X, and I want to repeat it. It is now time for mass deportations. I want every Islamist out of this country. I want every Islamist sympathizer out of this country. It is time to kick the radical Islamists out. This animal should never been allowed to come in. And this is what happens when you open your borders up and your country is invaded by millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens who are completely unvetted. You get psychopaths and terrorists like this guy, who gets his jollies out of burning people alive. Let me say one last thing, and then I want to go right to the phone lines. The man responsible for this is Mohammed Soliman. He's now in custody. They arrested him. I want to know if he was acting on behalf of Hamas. I want to know if he was acting as part of a larger terrorist cell. But the Democratic Party and these activists on college campuses like Harvard and Columbia bear a lot of the blame as well. Your call's next. 618 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, listen now to the Boulder Police Chief, Stephen Redfern, giving the details of what took place. He is shocked and horrified, as are most people in Boulder, Colorado, frankly, across the country. Terrorism, Islamic terrorism, has now struck again. Roll cut 26. Mike.
Today I'm here to give you very preliminary information about an attack that occurred here in downtown Boulder at about 1:26 p.m. today. At that time, Boulder dispatch received several calls to the county courthouse located at 1325 Pearl Street here in Boulder. The initial callers indicated that there was a man with a weapon and that people were being set on fire. The initial response by our officers, we were on scene very quickly. When we arrived, we encountered multiple victims that were injured with injuries consistent with burns and other injuries.
I mean, this is unacceptable. I mean, maybe this stuff flies in Gaza. Maybe this is how they do things in the West Bank. Okay, maybe this is the Middle East. This is not America. I don't want it to be America. I know it's increasingly becoming America, but I'm sorry. No. The answer is no. Now, as I talked about just before the break, but I really want to stress this. Notice the media. First of all, CNN is trying to claim that we don't know if this is terrorism or not. I swear to you, you can't believe this. They're still trying to claim, well, we really don't know the motive. We don't know why this guy did this. Okay, how about when he's shouting Free Palestine? How about when he's shouting End the Zionists? How about when he's saying, you like to kill children? You like to kill children? And as he starts, burning these Jewish marchers. No, this was an act of Islamic terrorism. It's pretty clear. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's a duck. Okay? So we have a Muslim fanatic who was in this country illegally, another illegal, who poured in across the border, unvetted, just unsupervised. And we just let them all in. And now we've got people in the hospital literally fighting for their lives. You've got an elderly woman burnt like a crisp, burnt to a crisp from head to toe. You've got children burned. You've got elderly burned. And who knows if there are other terrorist cells that are waiting now to erupt. What we do know is that over a week ago, 2 Jews were shot dead in Washington, D.C., who worked at the Israeli embassy. One was an American, the other one was an Israeli. They were going to be engaged. Now we know that innocent Americans were burned alive because some animal is supporting Hamas and is angry at Israel and our support for Israel in the Gaza Strip. The Democrats own this. They own this. They own this from head to toe. Who has been spewing this toxic, anti-Semitic, anti-American, pro-Hamas ideology? It has been Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ayanna Pressley. I could go on and on. The leadership, Cory Booker, the leadership of the Democratic Party has made its bed with the most vile anti-Semitic elements in our society. And when they're shouting on college campuses, when they're rampaging on college campuses and screaming and yelling, death to the Jews, death to Israel, what do we want? An intifada. When do we want it now? When they yell and scream and shout, globalize the intifada. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. What did you think they meant? That what? They were just going to have a couple of protests and wear a keffiyeh and everybody dance a little bit to some Arabic music and then everybody goes home? No. When they wear the keffiyeh, the Palestinian shawl, they're wearing now the very symbol of terrorism, the very symbol of anti-Jewish hatred, the very symbol of anti-American jihadism. When they shout, globalize the intifada, what do you think that means? That means intifada means violent terrorism. They want to bring violence here to the United States. And it's already happened. It is now here. The intifada has arrived. The Palestinian movement has now morphed into a terrorist movement. There can be now no denying it. And we as a country and a society have to decide how much more of this are we willing to tolerate. I'm telling you, I believe that this should be the mother of all wake-up calls. When they start burning Americans alive, it's time to say appeasement is over. And these now rabid pro-Palestinians on college campuses in the Democratic Party now should be treated for the domestic terrorists that they are. We need a crackdown on domestic Islamic terrorism and their aides and their enablers here in the United States. And so it is now time for us to say, you defend Harvard and Columbia, you defend these pro-Hamas jihadists, you defend what is happening in the name of Gaza. You are a terrorist or a terrorist sympathizer, and you need to go to jail. Because I'm telling you, if we don't stop this now, it is only going to get worse and worse and worse. The Democrats are responsible for this. And Islam is not a religion of peace. Every Islamist needs to be deported and kicked out now. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, what do you make now of this Islamic terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado yesterday, where Americans were literally burned alive by an illegal alien, pro-Hamas, a Muslim fanatic from Egypt, who was allowed to come into this country under Joe Biden? Does this now, I think, definitively make the case for the need for mass deportations? And is it time to kick every single Islamist out? Period. Full stop. Have you had enough? And are we now watching the pro-Palestinian movement, literally in front of our eyes, morph into a terrorist movement? And what do we do about it? 617-266-6868. Okay, Dave on Messenger, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, says, Jeff, this is exactly why we have the Second Amendment. I mean, in other words, for self-defense. So you need to be well armed. So when something like this happens, you're prepared. Dave is completely right. You have to, you now, especially if you're Jewish, but everybody, but especially if you're Jewish, you now have to take extra precautions. Either you're going to get shot on the street, or you're going to get burned alive, or you're going to be attacked on college campuses, whatever. But it's now clear. The left has embraced not just anti-Semitism, vile and disgusting as it is, but clear violence and terror. And look, as someone said on X last night, in response to one of my tweets, what's happening now is whenever there is a protest or a demonstration, or in this case, just a peace walk, anything that goes against what the left stands for, leftists now react with fire, fury, hatred, and violence. If you're going to do anything that comes close to being a protest in public that is against something that the left cherishes, you need to bring a ton of security. Because political violence and left-wing terrorism and Islamic terrorism are now, I mean, it's everywhere. And again, where's Pam Bondi? I have to ask, where's Pam Bondi? You've got him caught on tape. How much more? I mean, really, you've got people being burned in the name of Gaza, shouting free Palestine, end the Zionists. If this is not a case of terrorism, I don't know what is. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Okay, Dave makes the point as well. Jeff, Democrats are satanic, period. Full stop. This is why they're supporting this kind of anti-Semitism on our soil. Look, I think they're, as I said, I think they're now clearly responsible for this. I mean, obviously, this guy, Mohammed Suleiman is the one who's responsible because he brought his flamethrowers and his Molotov cocktails. He's the one that's burning, that burned people alive. But who's feeding this toxic ideology? It's coming from the Democrats, coming from the media, and it's coming from all these left-wing college campuses. And again, I said, it's like a cancer. It just spreads and spreads and spreads. This is from Larry on Messenger. Jeff, and the mainstream media called us crazy conspiracy theorists when we warned that Jomentia, I like that, when Jomentia was allowing terror cells to cross our border. Remember we kept saying terrorists were coming in and wannabe terrorists, and the media laughed and they scoffed? It's just white supremacy starting to rear its ugly head. No. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of terrorists who were allowed into the United States by Joe Biden. The scary thing now is there are so many of them. I believe, and my fear is, this could just be the tip of the iceberg. That's why out, every single one of them, out, deport every single illegal alien. And then Larry makes the very good point. And Jeff, since we're on the subject, hasn't the governor of Colorado and the mayor of Denver and the mayor of Boulder and all these local politicians resisted and fought Trump from removing illegal aliens? Great point, Larry. I mean, it's so this is what happens. You have a sanctuary state with a sanctuary mayor, sanctuary city mayor, and this is what happens. You allow illegal aliens to just roam free, and you have no idea who they are, where they came from, and yeah, there are terrorists walking among you. And now you've got 6 people in the hospital, 1 fighting literally for her very life, children burned, Americans burned alive. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else to tell you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Medford. You're going to kick us off, Mark. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Jeff, not only should they be deported, but every American that supports them, they should also be shipped to Palestine. And you know what? Let's see how fast they beg to come back to America. And we can tell them, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, but you made your bed. Now you can freaking sleep in it. Okay, Jeff? Because for Christ's sakes, I got something for the Democrats. Have you seen enough yet? Have you seen enough yet? We're lighting people on fire now? What's next, Jeff? Or are they going to just keep cheering this on and start waiting for beheadings next? Is that what this is coming to now?
Mark, honestly, I mean, I'm telling you the truth. I think that's going to be next. And look, my big fear is that we're turning into Europe. This is happening all over Europe. And remember, the Europeans are against Israel. The Europeans have condemned Israel and what they've done in Gaza. They're no friends of Bibi Netanyahu. Whether it's Germany, whether it's Sweden, whether it's Norway, whether it's France, I could name you, whether it's Britain. People are getting killed. People are getting burned. People are getting their heads chopped off from these Muslim fanatics that they've allowed into their country. So, Mark, my fear is, yeah, it's going to be beheadings next. And, Mark, the sad thing is, the Democrats still will not care. Because in their mind, the only people that pose a threat are you and me. I'm not kidding. It's MAGA. We're the Nazis. They're the ones burning everybody and killing everybody and shooting Jews dead on the streets and burning them alive, Mark. But you and I, we're the threat, my friend. Final word to you.
Well, Jeff, I'm sorry, but even Helen Keller can see this coming. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're completely right. And it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. I mean, I'm not saying we have to live with it. We can end this. But it takes will. We've got to say, no, this is not acceptable. We are not going to let our society become a third world hellhole. We're not going to turn this country into Gaza. Period. End of story. Agree, disagree, all of your calls. Next. Welcome to America Stand. I mean, either you laugh or you cry. I don't know what else to say. 650 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, couple lines are open if you want to jump on. So here is now the absolute latest. This my news feed is blowing up, so let me give you the latest details. Police now say it was 8 that were badly injured in what Kash Patel, FBI director, is describing as a targeted terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado. This was the suspect has now been arrested. His name is Mohammed Soliman. He is an illegal alien from Egypt. Police are saying it looks like it was a lone wolf attack. That's what they're saying. That he was waiting for this march. It's a group of American Jewish demonstrators. They do a weekly walk every Sunday early afternoon in Boulder along the pedestrian mall, and on behalf of the hostages being still held by Hamas in Gaza, the Israeli hostages. They've been doing this now for weeks, every single week at the same time. Well, he apparently dressed himself up, if you can call it that, as a landscaper. That was his shtick. He had his shirt off, he had jeans on, he pretended to be, taking care of the grass, taking care of the mulch. In reality, he was waiting for them. He used a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails and literally burned the people alive. American citizens ages 52 to 88 years old were transported immediately to hospitals. Now, some of the burns were very severe. According to witnesses, one woman, her face was burned off, completely burned off. Another one was her hair was burned, her body was burned. I think she may have died. Don't quote me on this, because some news reports now coming in is that they have charged Suleiman with murder. So I'm assuming if they're charging him with murder, someone has been killed. But anyway, this poor woman, I hope she's alive. This poor woman was burnt like to a crisp from head to toe. They desperately tried. They were trying to save her. They were pouring water on her. She was rolling around on the ground, yelling, screaming, shouting in absolute agony. There were others who were completely caught on fire as well. Their skin began to split open. Blood gushed everywhere. They had to take the burning clothes off of them, and they were in their underwear as people were desperately trying to, douse them with water. So this is one of the most heinous attacks that we've had in American history. They were burned alive. And all the while he was shouting, "Free Palestine, free Palestine, end the Zionists, end the Zionists. You kill children, you deserve this," i.e., I guess the children, the Palestinian children in Gaza, I assume. Anyway, so this is now the absolute latest. The Democrats are refusing to condemn it. Ilhan Omar, AOC, because this is her creation. This is the Frankenstein's monster that they've created. AOC, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, none of them have come out and condemned this. Furthermore, to Harvard University, that's why you should revoke every cent of federal funding. That's why you should revoke their tax-exempt status. Because this is the kind of hateful propaganda and ideology, this kind of toxic hate that they have now pumped and released into the political bloodstream. And now we've got people being burned alive. I mean, seriously, to the left, you guys happy now? Globalize the Intifada. That was your big, that was your big chant. Well, the Intifada has now come. 617-266-6868. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Bob.
You know, I've had it. I want the head of Homeland Security today on television saying, this is it. That's the red line. Start throwing these people out of the country. I don't care if they've got families here and children here. I don't care anymore. I'm sick of it. I want them out of the country. I want these morons, these professors that are giving these graduation speeches at the university, they should be taken to task too. Some of the things they're saying. I just don't know what else to say. I'm just so sick of this whole mess. What say you?
Oh, I agree. Look, Bob, I think Trump now has to take this very seriously. And I think Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, they have to take this head on. Because number one, Biden has allowed so many of these terrorists into our country. I think this is now going to be a weekly thing. This is my great fear. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, believe me. But look, they just shot 2 Jews last week in Washington. Okay? They just shot a couple that worked at the Israeli embassy in the name of Free Palestine. Now they're burning Americans, including children, alive. And this is in downtown Boulder. I mean, it's, as Mark said, and I think he's right, the beheadings are going to be next. So when you unleash something like this, it's like a virus. It's very hard to put this thing back, the genie back in the bottle. And so we need mass deportations. We have to start kicking all these Islamists out. We have to clean out these college campuses completely. Zero tolerance now. Absolute zero tolerance. The Palestinian movement is a terrorist movement. See, they're chanting genocide, but it's still words. Now it's action. When they say death to the Jews, this is what it means. When they say globalize the intifada, that's what that means. That's what the intifada is. When they wear their Palestinian shawls and say, and start chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. When they are espousing their antisemitism and their Jew hatred and their hatred for America, that's what it means. We're getting a taste of it now. And what they want is they want to bring their leftist revolution here to the United States. Now, just very quickly, Bob, this guy comes from Egypt. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. He comes here, he overstays his visa. If I were him, shut up. Okay? If I were him, shut up. And if you're working, keep working. In other words, you're in America, man. You're in the land of milk and honey. No. Look at this savage. No. He comes out with an incendiary, a makeshift flamethrower. You see, and that's the other thing. This is what the Palestinians are very good at. They can turn a stone into a weapon. They can turn anything into a Molotov cocktail, or into a flamethrower, or into a sling, or into an improvised IED or a bomb. They don't need much, and they can turn it into a deadly weapon. And people are trying to still figure out, he had 2 bottles, like Windex bottles, but you could see they're clear liquid. And I don't know what was inside those bottles, but he turned them into makeshift flamethrowers. And you just spray, and boom, you light a match. And, people were being burned left, right, and center. So we need this? What civilized society needs this? We don't want this. We don't need this. And they can shout diversity is our strength till the cows come home. Okay? This is a descent into barbarism. This is savagery. I don't want it. And neither should Americans. So what is it now? They got to do like in the Middle East, what, beheadings in the central square? So like what? They got to go to Boston Common and start, sawing someone's head off? Like what's it going to take? I guess 3,000 dead on 9/11, that wasn't enough. Fort Hood, that wasn't enough. The Boston Marathon Islamist bombing, that wasn't enough. San Bernardino, that wasn't enough. The Pulse nightclub in Florida, where they massacred gays and lesbians in the club, what was it, 60 dead, that wasn't enough. So now they're shooting Jews dead on the street, not enough. Now it's burning them alive, barbecuing them. I guess that's not enough. And let me just say one other thing, Bob, and I want to give you the final word on this. Link emailed me maybe about 45 minutes ago, and I think Link hit the nail right on the head. All of this began under Obama. No one says it, but let me say it. When that Muslim socialist took over the United States, notice that's when everything started to go south, especially with terrorism and Islamic terrorism. It was unheard of, practically unheard of. I know we had 9/11, but you didn't have this proliferating all over the country. But then it was the dear leader. It was Obama who unleashed the floodgates. And now they're here. After Obama and after Biden, they are here, and they're here in big numbers. So, Bob, either we kick every single one of them out, or I'm telling you, our future is that of Britain, France, and most of Europe. What say you, Bob?
The thing that gets me is we handle everything with such kid gloves. We have these people arrested in handcuffs, but we refuse to take their masks off and their the head coverings to show who they are. To hell with that anymore. You're going to violate the religious tradition by taking their head covers off. To hell with them. Who cares about them? Get them the hell out of this country, period. Start doing it.
God bless you. You're dead on. Bob, you're saying what a lot of people are thinking, but don't have the guts to say. Bob, thank you very much for that call. Greg in Freetown. Thanks for holding, Greg, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. The one thing I noticed was you have all these people standing around watching this guy throw firebombs at people. There wasn't one citizen standing around with a firearm they could have used to take this guy out. And that's exactly what Maura Healey wants here in Massachusetts. She wants us unarmed and ripe for the picking,
Oh, Greg, you're dead on. Greg, this is gun control. This is the People's Republic of Boulder, as they call it. It's Cambridge. Think Cambridge, but, nice skiing. That's Boulder. Okay? That's Boulder, Colorado. You're close to ski country there. So that it's Cambridge, but, with potential, you're an hour, whatever. Well, I don't know how the distance, but you can go skiing. That's Boulder. They have some of the strictest gun control laws in the entire country. And you're right. This is what happens. You're defenseless. Greg, the fact that he used Molotov cocktails, that he used a makeshift flamethrower, that people were burned alive, not as a figure of speech. They were actually burned alive, some of them beyond recognition. Is this going to finally spur people to wake up and say we have allowed the enemy to come within? Are we finally going to wake up and realize that flooding our country with all of these illegals has been an absolute disaster?
But most people I know feel that way. But these other people, the moon bats, as we like to call them, I don't think anything will change their mind. I think this is exactly what they want over here. I really do.
You mean what, to sow chaos and division?
Yeah, yes. I think that's exactly what they want.
Interesting. Greg, thank you very much for that call. Well, I got to tell you, they're trying to downplay the terrorism angle. They're trying to, I'm just telling you, this is the left, this is the liberal media. They're trying to claim that this wasn't an act of terrorism. So what was it then? I mean, no, really, this is ridiculous. So they're trying to claim it's not terrorism. Then if it is terrorism, it's just one guy and don't make too much about it. I mean, you can see they're trying to cover this thing up. Now, I'm telling you, if this was a white supremacist, or if he had a MAGA hat, this would be 24/7 saturation coverage. Every Republican would be blamed. Trump would be blamed. I mean, everybody would be blamed. I would be blamed. But instead, it's, hey, now nothing to see here. Let's just keep moving on. Nothing to see here. 617-266-6868. Aaron in Idaho. Thanks for holding, Aaron, and welcome.
Before I go any further, Mike, do we have a commercial break? They do the same thing here in Idaho. Aaron, you're on the air. Oh, commercial break.
No, you got plenty of time. Let it rip, Aaron.
All right, Jeff, speaking of Savage, and I know I mention him a lot, but there's a reason why, because he is or was my Rush Limbaugh. I always found Rush Limbaugh too boring, too predictable. He was just a bucket carrier for the Republicans. I remember after 9/11, I was angry, and then I heard Savage just screaming at the top of my lungs, and I was like, wow, that's a guy who feels the same way I do. I really want to drive this home to all the people on both the far left college students and even some people on the far right, like Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. For all of those of you who say that if Israel would just cease to exist, if Israel would just go away, there'll be peace on earth and the Muslims will just leave us alone. Savage pointed this out. In the last 25 to 30 years, there's been roughly about 20 conflicts, give or take. Only 3 of them have not involved Muslims. That would be Ireland, North-South Korea, and the war on drugs in Mexico. Every other conflict has been Muslims who cannot get along with their neighbors. Take Boko Haram in Africa. They're killing Christians and moderate Muslims. What in Africa? What does that have to do with Israel? Nothing. You saw an incident with Pakistan. They killed Indians in India. What does Pakistan and India have to do with Israel? Nothing. There were radical Muslims in Malaysia, Indonesia, killing tourists. Again, thousands of miles away from Israel. What does that have to do with Israel? And again, I want to drive this home. Suppose you get your wish, like in the Avengers, Thanos, the guy with the gloves. Suppose he snaps his fingers and all the Jews in Israel go to Florida. Let's say they go to Boca Raton. A lot of Jews there anyway, right? And Ron DeSantis is now the president of Israel. So the Muslims sing and dance like, yay, we have Israel, la, 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 Allah be praised. You know what's going to happen the very next day? Next day, Saudi Arabia and Iran are going to invade and attack. They don't give a damn about the Palestinians. They're just using them as a pawn. And then there'll be another war, another conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran over the Holy Land. Stop blaming the Jews and Bibi and Israel for all of this. And for others who say, we need peace, we need a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire on October 6, 2023. There was a ceasefire on September 10th, 2001.
Oh, Aaron, you're on fire, man. I couldn't agree with you more. And look, I just go back 1,500 years. Just literally 1,500 years. When has Islam ever been at peace with its neighbors? Ever. 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 So, look at Syria right now. They are massacring Christians. They're massacring Alawites. They're massacring the Druze. I mean, again, you're right. You could go on. India, Pakistan. What does that have to do with Israel? Nothing. The Pakistanis launched a vicious terrorist attack against India over Kashmir. I mean, over and over and over and over and over again. So they think, well, if Israel would just be wiped off the face of the earth, that would solve all our problems. No. Then you're utterly ignorant about Islam. And you're clearly ignorant about the Palestinians. The Palestinians have been offered their own state, not once, not twice, 3 freaking times. Okay? And by the way, Judenfrei, as the Germans put it under Hitler. Free of Jews. No Jew. There wouldn't be a single Jew in the West Bank, a single Jew in Gaza, and a single Jew in East Jerusalem. which was supposed to be their capital. And you know what they said? Niet. No. So they're not interested in peace. They've never been interested in peace. They've had independence offered to them again and again and again. They didn't even make a freaking counteroffer. The answer was no. So their goal is the annihilation of the Jews. And once they're done with the Jews, and they openly say this in Europe, once we're done with the Jews, we're coming for the Christians. So, again, this is the Sudetenland. You think you give them the Jews. You give them a slice of territory. You give them Israel. Somehow you think it ends. No, you're just whetting and feeding their appetite. So, Aaron, you're absolutely dead on. Aaron, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. So, no, and look, I'm positive. I'm already getting emails. This is all Bibi's fault. I mean, they're so predictable. So, a whack job, a Muslim whack job, pro-Hamas, an Islamist, an illegal, from Egypt, in Boulder, Colorado, burns Americans alive using a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails, and it's Bibi Netanyahu's fault? In other words, what? The Jews had it coming? This is why you can never have sanctuary cities, and this is why you can't have a sanctuary country. Look at the animals that you allow to come in. Agree, disagree, all of your calls next. 6868 is the number. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 603. Jeff, going on past behavior, including recent past behavior, I guess my first question has to be this. How long until the left starts lionizing this man for the terrorist attack he just carried out? My hunch is that it won't be long. Well, look, already in many quarters, especially on the radical left, and the radical left and the anti-Semitic left are almost synonymous now. Really, the left is anti-Semitic, with a few exceptions. They're already lionizing this guy, or justifying or rationalizing what he did. Again, Bibi is to blame. Israel is to blame. The war in Gaza is to blame. That's the reason why this is happening. So, again, the Jews had it coming. By the way, some of the victims, forgive me, many of them are Jewish. Some of them are not. Some of them literally are bystanders. They just happened to get burned alive as this guy unleashed a flamethrower on people at a park in Boulder, Colorado. So many of the victims had nothing to do with the walk or with the hostages in Gaza or, protesting the treatment of the hostages in Gaza. They were just there, as the police chief said. It was a beautiful Sunday. It's for most people, it's their only day off. And they went to the park, get some sunshine. Kids were there just to play in the park, maybe have a picnic, get some sun, get some fresh air. And before you know it, this animal without a shirt starts screaming, "Free Palestine! Free Palestine! And the Zionists! And the Zionists!" And people were being burned alive. It was one of the most horrific scenes people have said they've ever seen. And as I said, one woman's face was completely burnt off. Another one, it appears she may have died. Again, I'm getting reports that they've got murder charges, but they haven't announced who's been dead. But there was one woman that was severely burned. Her hair, her face, her entire body. Burned, completely burned. I mean, this is savagery. I mean, this is, I don't know what else. I mean, really, after a certain point, what do you say? A civilized society cannot have savages and barbarians like this among us. And it doesn't matter. They're going to go out and wave, the left is going to go out and wave that Palestinian flag. And they're going to go on about globalize the Intifada. And they're going to go on about, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. And they'll go on about death to Israel and death to the Jews. That's what they do. And they don't care how many people get killed. And that's why we have to say no more. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. 617-266-6868. Steve in Florida. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Jeff, you are the best. I say it all the time. I want to get right to my I want to get right to my point, and please give me the opportunity to make this point. We need, first of all, we play defense constantly. Tom Brady should be brought back in to help us with our offense because we're just terrible. The government is doing things that Harvard doesn't like, so Harvard sues the government. Well, what really has to happen is the government has to sue Harvard. We should have a class action suit by the U.S. government opened up to Jewish families who are fearful of sending their children, their college-age kids, to Harvard. They can't send them there because of fear of what Harvard might do, being on their campus. Harvard is a breeding ground for terrorism. They incite riots because of their inactivity. Now, if you think about this, I don't know how many Jewish families would participate in a class action lawsuit, but 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, open it up. Have the lawsuit in a conservative state like Florida, the way they do, with their lawfare, with their hand-picked judges in the locales where it benefits them. Let's have a lawsuit in the state of Florida against Harvard, open up a class action suit, have a window of an opportunity, and let's sue Harvard for trillions. And let them have to hire lawyers that will cost them millions, maybe billions, to defend it. And maybe there'll be a settlement. And Harvard will say, we can't have this publicity. We have to settle, and we'll change. And you know what? As part of the settlement, maybe they would change. And then after it happens with Harvard, you go after Columbia. And then you go after Cornell. And you go after every Ivy League school. And you go after every college. And maybe you'll have change. But if we don't play offense and we play defense and let these sons of bitches just run the show, then it's never going to change and we'll never win and the country will be finished.
I love it. Steve, I love it. I think you're completely right. But my fear is, Steve, do you mind hanging on? Because I'm up against it and I don't want to rush it. Because there's something I think we have to stare. There's an elephant in the room. And I think now we have to stare reality in the face. And this is for all Americans, but especially Jewish Americans. So, Steve, hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. Don't touch that dial.
Murderous acts by rampaging anti-Semites who are drinking a toxic ideology fed to them either on campuses or through the media or through various social media platforms. And words have consequences. Now, I'm not suggesting the answer is censorship, but we have to understand that hateful words that demonize Jews prompt people to take violent action and commit murder. And we've seen this over and over and over again. And it happened today, and it happened a few days ago. And if we don't stop this, it's going to happen again.
He's completely right. That was Elon Carr. He's the CEO of the Israeli-American Council. That was yesterday on Fox News in reaction to the barbaric Islamist terrorist attack that took place in Boulder, Colorado, yesterday at about 1:30 local time. It's 7:33 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. I want to go right back to Steve in Florida. Steve, you made a very, very good point. It's time for us to go on offense. It's time for Jews in particular, Jewish Americans, to maybe do a class action lawsuit against Harvard for its discrimination and bigotry and persecution of Jewish students. And maybe if it costs them billions and billions of dollars, maybe they'll start to do something about it. And then you can go after that to Columbia, and then after that to Cornell, and then before you know it, you can maybe suffocate the oxygen or squeeze out the oxygen of this anti-Semitic bile that is now being spoon-fed to students and activists around the country. And Steve, I'm with you all the way. But this is my fear. As an historian, especially of the 20th century, I'm telling you now what you're seeing, not just in the Middle East, what you're seeing all across Europe, and increasingly now in the Democratic Party, on the left, on college campuses, in the media, in Hollywood, in the popular culture, it is eerily reminiscent of the 1930s. The 1930s are making a comeback. And I don't know if lawsuits now are going to do it. I really honestly don't. I think now there is almost, you can almost call it a mass delusion, a mass psychosis taking place, whereby so many now on the left, so-called, and I put this in air quotes, progressives, blame the Jews and blame Israel for everything. And it's getting to the point that if I was of the Jewish persuasion, and I'm not, but if I was of the Jewish persuasion, you got to be very careful. You can be attacked at any moment. You can be shot on the street at any moment. You can be burned alive at any moment. In other words, it's becoming increasingly dangerous to be identified as a Jew in public. And again, this is what I mean. This is becoming very reminiscent of the 1930s. Now, it's nowhere near as bad here as it is in Europe. But you go to many European capitals and you have a yarmulke or the Star of David on you or anything that identifies you as a Jew, and you're either going to be knifed, you're going to be stoned, you're going to be beaten, you're going to be killed. And that's why Jews are fleeing Europe. They're going to Israel. They're coming to the United States. Or they're just keeping their Jewish identity secret. And just to pose it to everybody, would you walk on any college campus today, especially a quote-unquote elite college campus? Okay, I'm talking Harvard or MIT or Columbia, but even, I don't know, Michigan University or Ohio State, big schools. Would you walk with a Star of David? Would you walk with an Israeli flag or a shirt with the Israeli flag on it? Would you walk with a yarmulke? Something that identified you as Jewish? Or would you right away say, I'm courting trouble? No, if I do this, something could happen to me. Maybe I will be burned alive. Maybe I will get my face punched in. Maybe I will be shot dead. Are you willing to walk the streets, even in Boston? I'm asking people honestly. In Boston, are you willing to walk through Boston Common with an Israeli jersey or a big Star of David again, or a yarmulke, or whatever it may be, anything that identifies you as clearly Jewish, I'm telling you, it's 10 years ago, no problem. No problem. No problem. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. Obviously, you should never be ashamed of who and what you are. But what I'm saying is, if someone tells me, Jeff, I don't feel I have a target on my back, you're not telling me the truth. Either you're incredibly naive, or you're not being honest with yourself, or you're not being honest with me. You automatically have a target on your back. Now, tell me, how is this not a repeat of the 1930s? Steve, am I wrong?
Jeff, as you usually do, you told it as it is, and the truth must be told, and you did tell it. Now, here's my thoughts as a follow-up. We are currently at the point of a red line for Jewish people. You have a president who's a Republican, not a Democrat. In 2 years, the Democrats, if they should win the House, have already said that they're not only going to impeach Donald Trump, but they're going to go after him and investigate him and his family for financial misdoings. These people are sick. They're communists. They're communists. So what you have now are communists and Nazis who are trying to bring back, as you say, the 1930s. And they're going to be successful if in 3.5 years the Democrats win the presidency. Because if you think that it's bad for Jewish people now, just wait. When you have lefties running the country and communists running the countries, all bets are off. So that's why I said we're at a red line. And what you need to do, forgive me for repeating myself, but nobody has sued Harvard. There has been no class action suit. You need the publicity and the time for people to sign up and go after them and have the media have to report on it, because the media is going to do what they're going to do to Donald Trump, no matter how conservative how correctly, which is conservatively and traditionally, the way that this problem has to be dealt with. The media is going to go after him, whether he's a nice guy or not a nice guy. And I'm the biggest Donald Trump fan there is, except I'm going to tell you, he's too nice a guy. And because he's too nice a guy, he's not strong enough with Iran. He's tying Netanyahu's hands with Iran. They're going to get nuclear. He's going to, I don't want to get off the subject, but I want to say, we need to toughen up. We need, if we don't, the Jews will be in trouble, the whole country will be in trouble. I'm Jewish, and I'm worried. And I tell you, you need this class action suit for the publicity, for the money, for the media, for people to be talking about it and talking about it ad nauseum, so we can bring out this sickness that's on the left. Harvard will probably settle, because they don't want this negative publicity. It will go on and on and on. It'll be in the news. They'll hate it, and they won't want it. I don't know that they'll change, but I don't say it's the only way, but it's a very good first step.
I agree. No, it's a very important pillar of an offensive strategy. No, look, Steve, you're dead on. And we have to start shaming them. We have to start shaming them. And, how much time left, Mike? Okay, this is from Beverly on Messenger. And she says, Jeff, good morning. I'm just curious as to where all the Jewish politicians are and why they're not fighting about this shift in our culture and the rise of anti-Semitism. Where is Chuck Schumer? Where is everybody else? That is a great point. Where is Chuck Schumer? On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, again, just a very quick reset because I want to go to the blazing phone lines. Yesterday at about 1:30 local time in Boulder, Colorado, one of the most heinous, barbaric terrorist attacks to ever take place on American soil. A Egyptian man, he's an illegal alien, came in under Biden, overstayed his temporary work visa, so he was in the country illegally. His name is Mohammed Sabri Soliman, a clear supporter of Hamas and a clear supporter of the Palestinians in Gaza. That, there's no question now. Was pretending to be a landscaper, and he had his shirt off with his work jeans, pretending like he was working in the park, and he waited for a group of peaceful pro-Israel. To say demonstrators or protesters is not even accurate. They're walkers. Every week they would just walk along this pedestrian mall. It's a beautiful area of downtown Boulder. A lot of green, a lot of trees, shops nearby. And they would just walk to have everyone remember or commemorate the fact that there are still Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. And in fact, the organizer of this walk said they often get heckled in the park. People often want to debate them. They don't debate them. They just keep walking. So, and they're mostly in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. So you're talking about elderly people. And as they were walking, and it's since they do this every week, he knew here's a group of Jewish Americans, pro-Israel. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them the way Elias Rodriguez did, another left-wing terrorist, over a week ago in downtown D.C., when he deliberately targeted 2 Jews to be executed point-blank range as they came out of the Capitol Jewish Museum. This time, though, he didn't use a gun. He used a makeshift, improvised flamethrower and Molotov cocktails. He saw them. He screamed out, "Free, free Palestine." And then he doused them, and he literally lit them on fire. 8 are now severely injured. 4 men, 4 women. One of them was a Holocaust survivor, if you can believe it. One person, a Jewish woman, had her face completely burned off. Another one, I don't want to give false information. They have now announced murder charges. Again, they haven't told us if a person has been murdered. I'm assuming a murder charge means someone has died. But there was an elderly woman who was really struggling for her life. People were saying it was touch and go. She was burned. Her hair was burned. Her face, her entire body was incinerated. On fire. People were trying to douse her, throw water on her. She was rolling on the ground in absolute agony as people ran and they tried to snuff out the flames. Others, there were children nearby. Some of them also suffered minor burns. There were bystanders. They also got burned. It is a barbaric, savage attack. Listen now. This is just someone who had their video camera on. Picture watching people on fire. Others rolling on the ground on fire. And a pandemonium of joggers and, just people at the park watching and then trying to rush to help these people as they're literally being burned alive. Roll cut 25, Mike.
Here, we can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing.
We can!
Not here.
Not here, bro. You're not.
People taking video right now. He was wearing an orange suit with something on the back.
Spraying alcohol.
Spraying alcohol, which made it look like he was here.
He's making Molotov cocktails.
I mean, you can hear him in the background. That's Soliman. That's Savage. That is a Muslim fanatic, an Islamist. And Zionists, free Palestine, free Palestine. This is from Alan on Messenger. Jeff, because remember, he was allowed in by Biden. 20 million of them poured in. And we said repeatedly, there are terrorists among them. Not just murderers, not just rapists, not just the drug cartels, not just human and sex traffickers. You don't open up your country to massive unvetted immigration, illegal immigration. You're crazy. It's an act of suicide. Well, here we are. So this is what Alan wrote on Messenger, and he's completely right. Jeff, charge Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Alejandro Mayorkas for their policies that allowed this animal in. Charge every member of Congress and the media who have donned the Palestinian scarf and joined the from the river to the sea crowd. Make examples out of all of them. They're aiding and abetting. In fact, they're inciting terrorism. That's what they've now done. And the bodies now are starting to pile up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me just, one more. This is from Dave, our Western PA correspondent out in Western Pennsylvania. Said, Jeff, because people are asking, where's Chuck Schumer? Frankly, where are many of, Jewish politicians out there, especially on the Democrat side? Their silence is deafening. Well, the Palestinian, as Trump likes to call Schumer, this is what Dave on Messenger said. Jeff, Chuck Schumer is a self-hating Jew just like Bernie Sanders. Bingo. Bingo. Many of these radical Democrats who happen to be, Jewish heritage or the Jewish faith or whatever, they are self-hating Jews. They're self-hating Jews. They don't just hate Israel. They hate Jewish culture, the Jewish heritage, Jewish civilization, Jewish identity. They're ashamed of it. They're embarrassed of it. And you're clearly seeing this now. Where are they? Jews are being murdered and massacred. For God's sakes now, they're being burned alive. Nothing. Nothing. Complete and utter silence. Bob in Raynham. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, you touched on a few of the things I wanted to speak of earlier when you listed all the different terrorist acts that have occurred over the last, since 9/11. One of them you did miss out on, which was a Christian attack, I believe, was the Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, when all those, beautiful old ladies and all those people were killed. But the other thing I'd like to mention is this beautiful young couple that was killed last week. It seemed to me that the media couldn't get that off the front page quick enough, and they continue to do this. They make excuses for these people. They try to, take the terrorism angle away from it as quick as they can, and nothing could be further from the truth. And the other thing is, I'm still in disbelief. I'm still in disbelief that after 9/11, we elected a man. Well, we didn't, but they elected a man named Barack Hussein Obama, and it's just mind-boggling to me. And what did they think was going to happen? And I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, Bob, you're right. What did we think was going to happen? And it's atrocity upon atrocity upon atrocity. That's what's happening now ever since, forget 9/11, ever since we elected Barack Hussein Obama. And he was the one who went to the Muslim world. It was his first trip. And he said, I was raised as a Muslim. and I have known Islam on 3 continents. And he went on to say how Islam is a great religion and a great faith. And that he then later said, if there is ever a conflict with Islam, I will side with Islam. He openly said it as President of the United States. He did everything in his power to give Iran the nuclear bomb. He literally gave the mullahs billions and billions of dollars, all illegal, billions of dollars on freaking pallets that they flew in the middle of the night. He wanted to give radical Islam. Iran is the epicenter of radical Islam. Okay, if you're going to do the whole fascist, Islamo-fascist analogy, it's the Nazi Germany of Islamofascism. Okay, it's the Islamist motherland. I know Mecca and Medina are in Saudi Arabia, about the holy sites, but I'm talking about the biggest funder, the biggest driver, the biggest impetus behind pushing Islamic fascist terrorism across the region and across the world. It's Iran. It's obvious. And what did he do? He wanted to nuke them up. He wanted to give them the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. And he flooded this country with Muslims. Flooded this country with Muslims. And Joe Biden, that was on steroids. And so, look, I'm sorry, but the facts are the facts. This savage, Mohammed Suleiman, okay, this Egyptian illegal, was allowed under Joe Biden. Biden owns this. The Democrats own this. And when you keep saying over and over and over and over, death to the Jews, death to Israel, this is an intifada. Globalize the intifada. What they're saying is, kill Jews, kill Americans. It's time now to take it to the streets. When they wear that Palestinian shawl, the keffiyeh, that is a symbol of Palestinian terrorism. What this guy did. You burn them, you stab them, you shoot them, you blow them up, you do what you got to do in the name of free Palestine. Now, I don't care, honestly, Bob. This is America. You can agree to disagree. You don't like Israel's policies. You know me, I'm very pro-Israel, but let that go. You don't like Israel's policies. You're very pro-Palestinian. It's a free country. But when you start rampaging on college campuses, when you start taking over buildings, literally hijacking buildings, when you start assaulting, beating, kicking, stomping, spitting, harassing Jewish students, preventing them from going to class, when you start going classroom to classroom, occupying classes, and saying the problem in America is there are too many Jews, or as Ilhan Omar said, the Jews run Congress, the Jews run America. It's all about the Benjamins. When you refer to Jews as a cancer and a virus that needs to be eradicated, as many of these Palestinian protesters openly chant on Columbia, MIT, Harvard, I'm sorry, that's the language of Hitler. That's National Socialism, my friends. Pure, unadulterated National Socialism. And when you start calling for the murder of Jews, as they have, and you start to see now Jews dropping like flies, you're now bringing the intifada here, which is their goal. Well, I'm sorry. You're not going to turn the United States into the Middle East. First Amendment, yes. Terrorism over my dead body. And again, notice, no liberal has called a show to denounce this. None of these pro-Palestinians that always call my show to try to debate me over Gaza, no one has the guts to call in and condemn this. What does that tell you? They like it. They want it. They want more of it. Because in the end, they think if they can kill enough Americans, burn enough Americans, shoot enough Americans, that they can bully and intimidate the United States into cutting off our support for Israel, and then they can wipe out and massacre all the Jews. Now, I'm sorry, and I'm going to get a lot of blowback for this, but if I'm not here to speak the truth, honestly, what's the point of me being behind the microphone? To all my Jewish friends out there, and I'm speaking now to every Jewish American, have you forgotten the Holocaust already? Have you forgotten, my God, what was done to your people? And so many of your leaders are now silent? In the face of this evil Jew hatred and anti-Semitism? Your fellow Jews are being burned alive because they're Jewish, for God's sake. And I, as a non-Jew, have to lead the charge to condemn it? And I'm not saying there aren't Jewish organizations that have spoken out. Yes, I played one, Elon Carr. And on the Republican side, there's been tremendous backlash over this. But my God, it's time to melt AOC's phone off the hook. It's time to shame that little wannabe Fidel Castro. Elizabeth Warren should be shamed for what she said about Israel and the Jews. Ed Markey should be shamed. Kamala Harris should be shamed. Ilhan Omar should be kicked out of Congress. Bernie Sanders should be publicly called out and say, I'm sorry, you're an embarrassment to the Jewish people. Do you understand that? You're a self-hating appeasement Jew. That's what you are. You would rather commit suicide. You would rather be killed because you're such a coward than stand up to radical Islam. Someone needs to put Bernie in his place once and for all. Now, I'm telling you, so far, it's a murder here. It's 2 murders here. It's Jewish students getting their faces kicked in there. It's Jews being burned alive here, but something big is going to happen. I mean, really big. And there's going to be bodies everywhere. Like in Germany, where they just plow people down on the sidewalk. Or like in France, where you have mass stabbings. 15, 20, 30, 40 people dead. Their throats slit. Now, that's just a fact. So I guess 9/11 didn't teach us anything. I guess Fort Hood, nah. San Bernardino, nah. The Boston Marathon bombing, I'll never forget that till the day I die. Nah. No, none of this. Nah. The Pulse nightclub, nah. So I don't, what do you need? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000? How many dead before the country says, I think it's time to kick them out? Nah, this whole diversity thing not working out for us. It's time to speak up. Honestly, if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? And look, this is why I've been railing against sanctuary cities. You saw it coming, Bob. I saw it. Anybody with half a brain saw it. When you allow illegal aliens, and you have no idea who they are, to pour into your city, and you give them safe harbor, Boulder is a sanctuary city. Colorado, like Massachusetts, like California, like New York, is a sanctuary state. This guy was living amongst them in the shadows. And what are they all obsessed with in Boulder? Blocking ICE, stopping and obstructing Trump. The guy that wants to deport this guy. The guy that wants to stop him from burning people alive at a freaking park. No, that's the problem. Not the guy doing the burning. The guy that wants to get rid of them and deport them. So, look, as a country, we have to say, everyone has a red line. How come we're so afraid to draw our red line? This is a red line. And now you've gone into murder and burning people alive. You've crossed the red line. It's over now. Your pro-Palestinian movement should be officially categorized and declared a terrorist movement. That means you should be banned on every college campus. And if you're a politician and you still peddle this, you should be arrested. You should lose your seat, be kicked out of Congress, and you should be arrested. It's no different than aiding and abetting or cheering on ISIS or Al-Qaeda. There's no difference. These are traitors. These are enemies of America. And the last thing you do is cheer on the murder and incineration, immolation, the burning alive of fellow Americans. Am I wrong? On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, here's just one statistic, just one. Over the last year, anti-Semitism in the United States has risen. It has skyrocketed, listen now to this, by 873%. 873%. Okay? That's almost 1,000%. 873%. I mean, my God. And what do you think? You think these college campuses have anything to do with it? You think all these Democrats going on about how evil the Jews are and how great Hamas is? And, with their globalize the Intifada, and from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free? What do we want? Dead Jews. When do we want it? Now. I'm just saying, you keep chanting stuff like this. Death to Israel, death to America. You keep chanting and chanting and chanting. And you keep promoting a pro-Hamas, Islamist, anti-Semitic ideology. Guess what? You're going to start to see a lot of dead Jews. And you're going to start to see a lot of Jews being burned and being beaten and being assaulted and being terrorized. And now, increasingly, it's Americans who are now collateral damage. Soon, we're not going to be collateral. They're going to be coming after us as well. So we have a Republican Department of Justice. We have a Republican FBI. We have a Republican Department of Homeland Security. And we have, God bless him, a Republican president, Donald J. Trump. It's time to start kicking ass. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Peter in Florida. Thanks for holding, Peter, and welcome.
Hello. I want to tell you an eternal law. Every time that you leave your house without a gun, you are committing a capital crime. And the penalty is applied at random. Ask Laken Riley. Ask, Rachel Morin. Or these people who got burned up. Why didn't they shoot him?
Well, Peter, you're making a point that many are making, which is not only that they were unarmed, but notice all the witnesses, all the bystanders, they were unarmed as well. And many of them, I'm not putting them down. I mean, I'm not. I mean, many of them tried to help them. They're on the floor. They were putting blankets on them or pouring water on them. But many of them just looked and did nothing because they were afraid. He had a flamethrower and he had Molotov cocktails, and maybe they were going to get burned alive as well. And so all I'm thinking is the entire time, what if one of them had a gun? Just one. Of all those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at that park, one, just one, had even a 6-shooter. I'm not talking about a Glock or, any kind of heavy firepower. A 38 special 6-shooter. That's it. That's all you would have needed. Bang, bang. 2 shots, this guy's down. Instead, they had to wait for the police. And because of that, more people got burned. And those that were getting burned, people couldn't get to because they were afraid. And all the while, this animal without a shirt on is yelling, "Free Palestine, free Palestine." So, I'm Peter, I'm with you. That's why I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. And look, Peter, I get where you're coming from. I'm with you philosophically. But, a lot of these, the victims ranged from 55 to 82, I believe. It was in their 80s. One was a Holocaust survivor. You're 75, you're 78, you're 80 years old, for God's sake. Many of them are grandparents, great-grandparents. They're walking to make a point about Hamas holding these Israeli hostages. They're not bothering anybody. Literally, they're just peacefully walking on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Many of them had their shorts and their T-shirts on. What I'm saying is, I can't fault them. I mean, I know where you're coming from. Like thinking, hey, I gotta pack my Glock. I gotta bring a gun. You're thinking, come on, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a beautiful Sunday. We're just going to go through the park like we've been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we're just going to, carry a couple signs and we're just going to walk peacefully, civilly. This is America, for God's sake. Everybody's protesting something. So we're going to go and take a walk and get some sunshine, get some exercise, and, plug our cause about these hostages. No one expects that some savage is going to burn you alive. I mean, Peter, am I wrong?
Yeah, well, the final thing is you don't personally carry a gun, do you?
Who, do I?
Yes.
Oh, Peter, if you don't mind, I'd rather not say that. I have
I think that's excellent idea. Don't say it.
Yeah, Peter, I've been told, because I have a lot of enemies. So I don't want to say what kind of security I have or what I don't, but your point is an excellent one. People should be armed. People should be protecting themselves. At a bare minimum, if people are uncomfortable with having a gun, which I get, some people just don't want to have one, carry mace, carry whatever. But these gun control laws that you have in Boulder, as an example, these strict gun control laws, and Boulder has some and Colorado in general, that's the reason why those people got burned to a crisp. Gun control only controls innocent victims. It never controls the murderer, or in this case, the terrorist. So I'm with you, Peter. Had people been packing, this wouldn't have happened. Peter, as always, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me just say this to the moonbats that listen. Don't come to my house. Don't break into my house. That's all I'm going to say. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. I'm going to read a message that I got from Marianne. And it's a very powerful message. She admits that she's crying as she writes this message. And to me, I think it partly explains how we're becoming numb to everything that's starting to happen to our country, but also the denial, the blindness, that afflicts so many liberals and so many on the left in this country. And so here's what Marianne wrote. It's a very long message. I'm just going to read parts of it. But it's incredibly moving and it's very, very powerful. Jeff, I'm going to tell you something about that Pulse nightclub Islamic shooting in Orlando years ago. As you know, as I've told you, my son is gay. And I remember that very well because the Sunday morning, right after it happened, and remember, the Pulse nightclub attack was an Islamic terrorist who targeted, it was a gay lesbian nightclub in Orlando on a Saturday night. And I mean dozens and dozens and dozens were slaughtered. It was a slaughter. It was a massacre. And so this person obviously was, this mother whose son is gay, she's obviously very worried. And so I remember that very well because the Sunday morning right after it happened, I was listening to the news on TV as I was reading the newspaper. And they kept saying something about the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. And I was half paying attention. And then all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in my head. It's one of the many gay nightclubs in Orlando. My son lives in Orlando. He used to go there from time to time. And so she says, now she's in a panic. Just as she was there, she was ready to call him, her phone rang, and it was him, her son, saying he was okay, that he hadn't been there that specific night. Marianne, the texter, or the messenger, she's messaging me, says it really bothered her that so many people were slaughtered at that Pulse nightclub because that could have been her son. And so she took a week off from work. She said she attended memorial services. She took her son and his friends out to eat and to console them. This was devastating to the gay community in that area. And she said, by the way, and this is the part where she gets very emotional, it wasn't just gay people who were killed that night, because straight people go to gay nightclubs as well. Many straight and gay were killed that night. The one that got me, though, the one that got me the most, that there was a mother who was there with her son at the Pulse nightclub, and when the bullets began raining, she threw her body over her son to protect him, as any mother would do. And she says, I'm crying as I'm telling you this. And she did end up protecting her son. But she got killed in the process. And she says, I would have done the exact same thing. If I was in that nightclub with my boy and bullets were firing, my instinct is I would throw my body over my boy. She says, but my point is, now here it is, okay? Here it is. Please listen to this. But my point is, I couldn't even bring up the fact that the murderer was a Muslim to my son or any of his gay friends, because they are so wrapped up in liberalism, it is heartbreaking, Jeff. They just don't want to see it. And she goes on to say, I don't want to see any of this happen again, but we all know it's going to. And anyway, she goes on to say that it's heartbreaking and it's infuriating. And the larger point is, when she tried to tell her own son, hey, look, this was an Islamic terrorist. That's the reason why he shot up. He was targeting gays and lesbians. And he knew that this club was a well-known gay club, nightclub. And he said, yeah, I'm gonna massacre him. I'm gonna shoot him. They throw them off of buildings in the Middle East, for God's sake. They throw gays and lesbians right off of rooftops. And so he went in there and he deliberately shot up the place to kill as many gays and lesbians as possible. And they didn't want to hear it. They didn't know he was a Muslim. They didn't care he was a Muslim. They didn't want her to mention he was a Muslim. And that this was part of a jihad. Now, I don't know what to tell you. You've got 60 people dead. This is a hate crime. You want to talk about homophobia? This is the most homophobic terrorist attack in American history. It wasn't done by some white supremacist or whatever. It was done by a Muslim extremist. And no. It's like they covered their ears and la, 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 la. Don't want to hear it. La, 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 la. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. Willful blindness. Even when the truth, what's staring them in the face, they're covered in the blood of the truth. And their friends have been murdered. They still don't want to see it. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Case closed. Dave in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Jeff, this whole thing is totally sick. That's what happened yesterday. Jeff, we tolerate so much of what's going on in this country because of all the craziness that's going on. So, Jeff, how many mosques do we have in Massachusetts alone? There's people going into the mosque, run up on Dudley Street, up by the other side of Melina Cass Highway. We got one in Cambridge. Jeff, there's a huge one out in Sudbury. What would happen if somebody went into a mosque during a service that they supposedly we have to pray, and somebody threw a couple of Molotovs and something in one of those? What would happen, Jeff? Because everybody's getting away with what they're doing. It would be a whole different story if we turn around and just start burning down every mosque that's in the state of Massachusetts. Jeff, I don't know what to say, but whatever they're going to do to this guy that did that at the park and everything yesterday, Jeff, forget putting him in jail. Forget anything else. Just shoot him with a 25-cent bullet. Get it over with. Because I'll tell you, Jeff, it's going to come down to, it's going to be, everybody's going to have to stop packing, no matter whether it's a lethal dose or whatever they want to use or something, Jeff. Enough's enough. And everybody needs to get taken out of here, get taken out wherever they got to go. But, Jeff, that was plain outright murder, and I'll bet you a steakhouse that more of these victims are going to die because of those firebombs. Jeff, I had third-degree burns when I was younger from a different situation. And I'll tell you, it's torture, Jeff.
Well, you read my mind. I mean, Dave, look, please don't. I don't want people to mistake me. You shoot someone, it's horrible. Okay, but at least it's a quick death. It's horrible, but okay. But to be burned alive? The agony, the torture, the excruciating pain, and it just goes on and on. That's why I wish somebody was armed. Seriously. Take this guy out. Do us a favor. Okay, it's the Kuhner. By the way, it's 8:50 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. It's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. What do you think accounts more for the stunning rise, the skyrocketing rise of anti-Semitism in the United States? As you know, it's gone up. It's exploded, in fact, 873% over the last year, culminating yesterday in Boulder, Colorado, with that barbaric attack, terrorist attack, by an illegal alien Egyptian, a Muslim fanatic, on a group of Jewish peace walkers or peace marchers, burning them alive, using a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails and literally burning them alive. Is it A, sanctuary cities, Boulder, sanctuary city, and they harbor people like Mohammed Soliman? B, these college campuses that have been spewing this toxic pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic ideology. What do you think accounts more for this rise in anti-Semitism? A, sanctuary cities. B, college campuses. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, K-U-H-N as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. You can also vote via X, and man, was I active on X last night. I was all over this Boulder thing. You can vote there as well. My handle, @the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. Okay, speaking of college campuses, let me put this log on the fire. And this is what I mean when I'm saying this has to end. This really now has to end. So, as you know, MIT, one of the most elite, prestigious, and frankly expensive schools in the entire country. Well, the class president at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology was banned from the graduation ceremony, from walking across the stage to receive her diploma. Now, you may be saying, Jeff, okay, the class president was banned from getting her diploma at this graduation ceremony. What does this have to do with a savage terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado? Okay, well, here it is. The day before, her name is Megha Vemuri, Vemuri, Megha, Megha. The day before, she delivered the commencement speech. She delivered the commencement speech. But she deliberately lied and misled the commencement organizers. She said that she was just going to do a normal, rah, we're MIT, we're so proud, the world is ours, and this is, one of the happiest moments in our life. We worked so hard to get to this moment. No. She then delivered a jaw-dropping, blistering, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. It wasn't even a speech. It was a call to a protest. And so she completely veered from her prepared statements, and then she just took it to Israel. Now, there were many Jewish students in the crowd. Many of these students had their parents from Israel who flew in on their dime for this extremely important event. Imagine, you've worked 4 years to get to this point. You've been paying money through the nose, a massive expense, personal expense, financial expense. Your parents come all the way, many of them from, Israel itself, and you got to listen to this? She went on to say, during her speech, quote, this is what she said, "You showed the world," she was praising the protesters, "that MIT wants a free Palestine." There it is, that slogan again. And she defended the widespread anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protests that erupted on MIT at their Cambridge campus. She then attacked university authorities for criticizing their protests. Here's what she said, quote, to the students, the protesters, "You called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, and you stood in solidarity with the pro-Palestine activists on campus. You faced threats, intimidation, suppression coming from all directions, especially your own university officials. But you prevailed because the MIT community that I know would never tolerate a genocide." And then she went on to say that because MIT is not part of the boycott, divest, sanctions movement, BDS, which, by the way, is a nakedly anti-Semitic movement. She said this way, because of this, MIT is directly complicit. Listen, she's trashing her own university. Okay? She's delivering the commencement address, and she's literally trashing her own university. That MIT is directly complicit in the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. So she says we carry with us the obligation to do everything we can to stop it. Now, her speech, as she was saying it, was causing a massive stir. So you had some of these crazy left-wing idiots, yeah, mega, yeah, you stick it to the man, yeah, you stick it to MIT, stick it to the Jews. Many others were jeering, saying, you're ruining our day. You're ruining the freaking weekend for everybody. Many Jewish students literally got up and left. Their parents got up and left. Now, a couple of quick points, and then I want to go right away to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Who the hell is this woke punk? And that's what she is. She's a punk. This woke idiot to lie and mislead commencement organizers about her speech. She submitted a very different speech than the one that she delivered. But number two, you want to talk about self-absorbed narcissist. You're going to trash your own university on the very day that people are about, or whatever, the day before, that people are about to receive their diplomas? Many of whom, unlike her, all they did was study in a library and go to class and work their tails off? And you're going to ruin it for everybody? And you're going to turn your commencement address into a freaking pro-Palestine protest? You have to even politicize that? That's number one. Number two, you can't even stop your Jew hatred on one of the most important days of your life. She's so brainwashed and she's so indoctrinated that she's going to ruin her commencement address and ruin it for everybody. And this is what I mean. You keep talking about genocide. You keep talking about how Jews are perpetuating a genocide and how we have to continue to hold everybody accountable, including MIT. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you keep praising the Intifada and calling for an Intifada? Well, you're going to get an Intifada, which is what happened in Boulder, Colorado. But let's let that go. Just let that go for a second. Now, I'm telling you, if I'm a parent who shelled out $60,000, $70,000 a year, because that's what it takes to send my kid to MIT, and this is now the crowning achievement and one of the most important moments in their entire life, to graduate from such an elite, prestigious university, and I got to listen to this clown, this political propagandist, go on about the Palestinians and the Israelis in Gaza? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And forget being Jewish, and I know the Jewish students were offended. I don't blame them completely. I'm saying I'm neutral. You know what? What? Well, I've been in the library, seriously, my head in the books, and going to class and taking notes and doing exams nonstop in papers. What's going on between Israel and Hamas? What? What, there was an attack in October 7, 2023? What? There's been a war going? What? Okay, in other words, all I'm doing is I've been holed up for 4 years studying my freaking ass off. Forget I'm Jewish, I'm not Jewish, I'm pro-Israel, anti-Israel. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I got to listen to this dreck? I've got to listen to this person drone on about some cause thousands of miles away on one of the most important days of my life? Now, the university then banned her. She's going to get her diploma. But they banned her from attending the graduation ceremony. You know, where they actually hand out the diplomas. And she's crying victim. That this violates her freedom of speech, her freedom of expression. How dare they do this to her? And obviously, as the university said, there's a time and a place for everything. You guys had your protests. You ground the university to a halt. You targeted Jewish students, for God's sake. You took over buildings. You took over parts of the campus. You're lucky you're not in jail. A commencement address is not a vehicle for you to go on about how much you hate the Jews and Israel. Now, you want to be a pro-Palestinian activist, do it on your time and your dime. Now, I'll be honest with you, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. I would have kicked her out of MIT. On the spot. Instead, the university president got up. By the way, Maura Healey was in the crowd. Governor Healey was in the crowd. Clapping like a trained seal. Ah, go Palestine! Ah! Okay, so there's Holden Healey in the crowd. The president gets up and says, okay, calm down, everybody. This is about the students today. This is about getting a diploma. She should have gotten up and said, you know what, excuse me, Miss Vermurray? You're out. You're not getting a diploma. We're going to rescind your diploma. Do you understand? You are now expelled from the university. From this moment, you are expelled. And by the act of expulsion, because tomorrow's graduation, you're not getting your diploma. Suck on that. Okay? See if the Palestinians in Gaza are hiring. She should have lost her diploma on the spot. They should have revoked it, and they should have kicked her out of the university altogether. You want to send a message? That's the way to send the message. Instead, this proverbial slap on the wrist, well, you just won't show up and get your diploma. Big deal. She's a hero of the resistance. She's now a cause célèbre on MIT. They stifled me. They violated my free speech. She's like a heroine now on campus to the radical left and their ilk. No. Let them suffer real consequences. Kick her out, expel her, and revoke her diploma. Trust me, this will end, and it will end fast. Agree, disagree. Should she have been allowed to deliver that address? If you were in the audience, and that was either you graduating or your child or grandchild graduating, what would you have done? Would you have walked out? And should this person be kicked out and have their diploma rescinded? I say yes. What say you? Tommy in Brockton. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Yeah. By the way, I just looked on the Council of American Islamic Relations. Number one, there is nothing about the attack on Jews yesterday in Boulder, Colorado. However, it does mention her name and how they're going to defend her. And, Jeff, I'm 65 years old, but I remember as a child in Sunday school learning about the camel's nose in the tent. And after 9/11, I knew very little about Islam. I knew Malcolm X was a Muslim. I know he went to the Hajj and met blue-eyed Muslims that were his brothers. And there was one book by Alex Haley I could not put down. But like I said, I knew very little about Islam. And all I remember after 9/11 was Oprah Winfrey had a program about Islam is a peaceful and tolerant religion. Don't judge, the Islamic religion in a negative light. And I will tell you one thing. At that time when I lived in Vancouver, Washington, which is next door to Portland, Oregon, I used to get my diesel from my pickup truck from a guy who was an Indian, who was a Sikh, who wore the turban. And I went in that day to his store. His name was Raj. I said, Raj, do yourself a favor. There's going to be a backlash in this country. People are going to mistake you for being a Muslim. Get yourself the biggest American flag and fly it on your gas station. Trust me, because there's going to be a backlash coming. And anyway, he got called several names. I won't mention them, but he thanked me, and he put a sign out in front of his gas station, convenience store, and it said, "We love this country, our adopted new home. Thank you, America, for allowing us to open a business and celebrate our freedom. We are Sikhs. We are not Muslims. There is a big difference." Anyway, I just want to get to a point with regards to what is happening in Western Europe with Islam. There's a very famous fighter by the name of Conor McGregor, and right now in Ireland, there's a backlash towards what has happened with regards to this Muslim migration that's going on all throughout Western Europe. And they're making it clear, Muslims are now making it clear that in a few generations, when we are the majority, you are going to do things our way. And I'm a Christian by faith, but it is better to be a wise welcomer than a foolish friend. And that is the problem with the white liberals I went to high school with at Foxborough High, that think every culture is equal, every culture we should celebrate it. Well, I don't see Asian people coming to this country telling me how to do things. I certainly don't see Africans that are Christians coming to this country telling me how to do things. But what I do see is a lot of people of the Islamic faith telling me how awful I am and how awful my country is. And I will not stand silent with regards to this Jewish hatred. I am not a Jew, but I am a Zionist and I am a Jew in solidarity. And all I can tell you was after October 7th on my Facebook page, I put the Star of David over my high school photo. I'm wearing an Emerson, Lake and Palmer T-shirt. It was 1977 back when I had hair. And I will take that Star of David down after all of the hostages are released and the Israeli Defense Forces kills every last Hamas member. I'm fed up with it. And, in my life, I'm marrying an immigrant. She's from the Philippines. She had to go through a criminal background check, as with her version of the FBI. It's called the NBI there. And she had to get medical examinations and vaccines. And what progressives in this country allowed happened under the Biden administration. They let in anywhere from 11 to 15 million people with no criminal background checks, no medical evaluations, and people like us that were employed during 2020, we had to get the vaccine. But they didn't have to get the vaccine during the COVID crisis during 2021. And I'm just beside myself to find out that these are elderly Jews that were just peacefully protesting. And I'm not seeing any of the white liberals I went to high school with denouncing this stuff. And I can't wait to my 50th reunion. I am going to be that one guy that is going to be the turd in the punch bowl because I'm fed up with it.
Good for you.
Academia is what I blame for this anti-Semitism. They're not telling the real truth. Jews are the indigenous people of that land, historically known as Israel. And to call them white colonizers is just ridiculous.
Tommy, as always, thank you very much for that call. Well, look at that, the commencement speaker, that student, look at her. Look at the indoctrination. Look at the brainwashing. They can't even turn it off for one lousy day. So, yeah, I blame universities. You better believe it, I blame academia. More with your calls. Next. 38 is the number. Okay, let me give you the rest of the story as used to be said by Paul Harvey. So, according now to Fox News' Bill Malugin, who's an excellent reporter, he now says that 3 senior Department of Homeland Security sources have confirmed that Mohammed Soliman, the flamethrower, the man who burned alive at least 8 people in Boulder, Colorado, is an Egyptian national in the United States illegally. That he came into the United States under the Biden administration. And in particular, here's now what DHS is saying, that Soliman arrived at LAX, at Los Angeles International Airport, on August 27, 2022, on a B1/B2 non-immigrant visa with an authorized stay through February 26, 2023. So, ballpark. They let him come in for 6 months. He then overstayed his visa, and he just never left. He just literally never left. And so he was not, there were, as Tommy rightly said, look, when I became an American, hell, when I got a green card, okay, never mind the green card, but when I became an American citizen, both Grace and I'm not complaining, I'm just explaining, thorough criminal background checks. We had to do drug tests. We had to show them, our education, that we could sustain ourselves, that she had a job, I had a job, that we were not going to be a drain on the taxpayers. I could go on and on. Never mind, language requirements, and you have to know English and basic civics. But the point is, we were thoroughly vetted. This Soliman character, nothing. Came in, they just gave him 6 months, come on in, do what you want. They didn't check his background whatsoever. No criminal background check, no check whatsoever. Now, 15 million like this under Biden were allowed to come in. I will bet you dollars to donuts. Okay? I'll bet you the best steak at the best steakhouse of your choice. This guy wasn't just quote unquote radicalized in the last year or two. This guy came in as an Islamist. This guy was an Islamic terrorist back in Egypt. And because there were no background checks, no vetting, nothing, the Biden regime just let this guy waltz in. And the question now is, how many more? We know MS-13 came in. We know Tren de Aragua came in. We know the gangbangers and the cartels came in. We know the murderers and the rapists and the drug dealers and the child molesters. We know how many of them came in. Millions. Now the question is, how many Islamic terrorists did they let in? That's the question now. 2 were slaughtered. 2 Jews were killed on the streets of Washington last week. Free Palestine, as Elias Rodriguez shouted. This guy burned 8 in downtown Boulder shouting, "Free Palestine." What's going to happen the following week? Next week? That's what I want to know. Seriously. What's going to happen? What's it going to be next week? It's going to be like a weekly thing. Soon it'll be bi-weekly, and then before you know it, it'll just be like in the Middle East. It'll just be every day. Oh, yeah, he got cooked. Why? That's what they do. They just burn people alive. That's what they do. Diversity. It's our strength. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, there are murder charges. I know I've been saying it all morning, but I'm going by outlet after outlet after outlet. So murder charges have been leveled against Suleiman, but they haven't announced who died or if anyone died. So I suspect now some of these more elderly women that he burnt, he practically fried them. They were burnt from head to toe, severely burned. Many of them said it was very difficult to save their lives. They were rushed to the hospital. I fear that they now may have been killed. I hope not, but these are murder charges, and I assume they're murder charges because someone has actually been killed. 617-266-6868. So this story is just getting worse. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome. Dan, we can hardly hear you. Hold on, we're going to try to reset the connection, and we'll come back to you. We'll try it now, Mike. Okay, Dan, can you hear us? Dan, hold on. You sound like you're in the Himalayas. Wes is listening on some kind of a police radio or something. All right, let's go to Leslie in Boston. Thanks for holding, Leslie, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Nice to speak to you, and thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Leslie.
The trouble is with society today is the way we are raising children. You can't hit a child. You over-discipline them, you punish them, and the retaliation with the kid is like, well, I'll tell somebody. You can't spank kids today. The teachers, there are no authority figures for the kids today. Teachers get no respect. They're not afraid of the police. There's something in society that the parents today are missing.
Well, Leslie, you're right. Just look at this, this woman, this college grad at MIT. You want to talk about a spoiled brat. And, the governor is not that I'm a big fan of Healy, but the governor's in the audience. The president of MIT is in the audience. The board is in the audience. All of her fellow students who are about to graduate are in the audience. And she thinks that she can just mislead them with this, with this address. She gives them a different one than the one she actually delivers. And she's going to lecture them on Palestine and Israel? And she thinks that she can ruin everyone's commencement? Because she thinks she's so morally superior? I agree with you. I blame the parents. 9:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868. All right, 3 hours, 33 minutes into the show. Not one text message, not one email, not one message on Messenger, not even a single phone call. 617-266-6868. Not a single liberal has condemned the attack, the Islamic terrorist attack in Boulder yesterday. No pro-Palestinian supporter has called or, again, texted or messaged or emailed condemning that barbaric, savage hatred, that savage attack where Americans were burned alive. Dead silence. And their silence tells us everything we need to know. And let me throw this very quick log, and I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Tommy in Brockton, he usually calls from West Virginia, but he's also got a house in Brockton. So Tommy in Brockton made the point. You look at Europe, especially Western Europe, already many parts of it, Sharia law. The more Muslims have been allowed to pour into Germany or the United Kingdom or France or Italy or some of these Nordic nations like Sweden, Norway, and others, the more open and explicit the so-called Muslim migrants have been. And now they don't hide it anymore. They explicitly say, we will take you over. It may take another generation or two, but we're having 7, 8, 9 children. You're lucky if Europeans will have 2 children. Most of them have 1, if not any children. And demography is destiny. And they openly say that they will take over Europe, take over these countries, and that their goal is to Islamicize the entire population and to impose Sharia law. In other words, it's a takeover. It's an invasion. They're not hiding it. It's in the open. They brag about it. They boast about it. And they say there's nothing you can do now to stop us. Tommy mentioned CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Nothing on the atrocity in Boulder yesterday. But they're going to defend this commencement speaker at MIT. CARE openly champions Sharia law. CARE says the exact same thing. One day, America will be ours, and the whole country will be under Islamic Sharia law. Now, why am I mentioning all this? Because what I said on X, I want to repeat now. And I want to know if you agree or disagree with the Kuhner man. Is it now time for mass deportations of Muslim militants from our country? In particular, every single illegal alien has to be deported, but especially those who espouse militant Islam. I say yes. And do you remember Trump in his first term vowed to ban all immigration, legal or illegal, it doesn't matter, from every single Muslim country in the world? Is it time for him to reimpose this Muslim ban and stop all immigration from any Muslim nation? I say yes. What say you? Agree? Disagree? 617-266-6868 is the number. Should we now say we will not allow certain types of immigrants who cannot and refuse to coexist and assimilate into our culture, our way of life, our civilization? If the Europeans want to commit suicide, that's their business. But we should not follow Europe and blow our own brains out. That's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. John in Canton. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Great show, Jeff. Jeff, first of all, every single Democrat who vote for Joe Biden has blood in their hands. Second, Trump, if he wanted to be known, like I call him Donald the Great, he should have stopped the import of these terrorists who hate the Western. I love you, Joe. In non-sexual ways. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I think now this is going to force his hand. I think there's no question. Look, the fact that this guy, Mohammed Suleiman, is an illegal from Egypt, that's going to give him now massive support, more support even, for Trump to turn around and say, look at these sanctuary cities. Look at these people trying to block ICE. Look at these sanctuary states. We got to get these are dangerous terrorists and criminals that Biden has admitted in. We got to get them out. The sooner the better. You know, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Dan, we got him back in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for hanging for me. I really appreciate that.
Go ahead, Dan.
Jeff, you got to realize that we've allowed it to happen. We've had presidents like Obama. We've had presidents like Biden who have had other ideas, voting, liberalism, bringing all these types of people in here so they can have a one-party system. And we've done a lot of this by bringing it on ourselves. And it really comes down to who we elect, who's in power, and how did they get there. And the situation being here is that we've basically caused a cancer. This cancer is metastasizing. It's going to eat us from the inside out, just as it is in Europe. You can see that. And it is going to get worse over there because, let's face it, they're going to grow within, and then they're going to take political power. And then once they have that, it's all over. And it's the same thing in this country. We can't allow MS-13. They're bad. We can't allow other gangbangers. They're bad. We can't allow the drugs in. We can't allow anybody that's not vetted into this country. And we have to start standing by our traditional values. Our liberal population has to realize that, not everything is bad with liberalism. There's some things, I'm not going to say every single thing, but there seems to be an awful lot that I disagree with and that they just can't comprehend. I'm a realist. I just can't see the vision of some of the things that they see. But the bottom line is we need to vet. We need to make sure that these mosques aren't little areas where they're all getting together and basically conspiring against us. Jeff, the situation is we've allowed it in and we've got to kick it out.
Dan, well said. Honestly, drop the mic. And, Dan, I can just piggyback off of what you're saying. If I would have said to you or anybody else in the audience 20 years ago that some crazy, Islamic militant, this pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian fanatic, would launch an attack in downtown Boulder and burn people alive, literally burn them alive, some unrecognizable, this would be national outrage. People would say this is unacceptable. People have become numb. People have become desensitized. Like Europe, we're getting used to it. And on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 if you want to call in. Let's go to Rose in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Rose, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
Jeff,
Rose.
I've been a listener, but I'm also going to tell you that I'm a daughter of an immigrant from Ireland, as was my mother and my father. They met over here. At the time that they came out, just to give you a little history, he was with the IRA. He was in the penal prison in Ireland. They were going to put him to England, where he would have been dead. My grandmother went over and begged could he come home and visit with this very large family in Donegal. And what happened is they snuck him out of the country, and they got him into here. Now, to go back to the history of immigrants at that time, I know you are from Boston, in the area, but Faneuil Hall is a historical building. It's a shopping center, but prior to that, it was used to register people. And in order to become a citizen, you had to go in there and listen and take a pledge as to what was expected of you in order to learn about the country and the rules. And then you became sworn in as a citizen, but you had to attend those meetings. My question is, we don't do any vetting on anybody at all. They just come in, and my father, because he was the oldest of his family and got here, he brought in 2 brothers and a sister. When they came to our house, they had no place to go, so they lived with us. I slept with my uncle in my bed, and my aunt and me. We all met. They all got married to people they met at church or wherever. We all lived in the same parish. They had 6 children and 6 children and 4 children. And so this is what's missing from now. But they also want to know about the Democrats. I knew nothing about politics. I'm a girl. Nobody said boo to a goose. But if they put we had bricks in front of our house, and what they did is they came in and said the tree was root was picking up the bricks, so they put in cement. But the Democrat down the street, who was around the corner, his kids were Americanized. They came in, we'll put that in. But then for that, my brothers and I had to go, when we got old enough to vote, with our parents over to the voting booth together as a family to vote in unison. They give you something, the Democrats, but they expect something from you. So they're not true givers of doing it because it's right. They do it because it's payback. Biden has proven that, Irish American, whatever he is, that gene was in him and it stayed with him till he died. So I'm just saying that you had to learn about the country before you could become a citizen to know what the rules are, and then that was a gift that was given to you by complying with this vetting, so to speak. So then none of that is done now. So I'm just saying that, what happened to that? You can look up in history.
Right. No, Rose, look, you're completely right. We used to have the melting pot. Immigrants were encouraged, almost mandated to assimilate. That was part of our culture, our country. And I still remember reading in school, this was decades ago when I was in high school, how in the United States of America, you had to pledge, renounce all allegiance to a foreign king or a foreign country. I remember, God, you couldn't, you have to get, now it's changed, but in the past, you couldn't have 2 passports. Either you were an American or you were a citizen to another country. You can't have dual allegiances, dual loyalty. Those days are long gone. Long gone. We've watered down patriotism. We've watered down citizenship. We've watered down what it means to be an American. Now it's gotten to the point that under Biden, they just unleashed the floodgates. That's what they just, anybody could come in. Anybody. No background checks, no vetting, nothing. And now you got Americans literally dropping dead left, right, and center. So this is treason of the highest order. And we have to stop just accepting it and being desensitized to it. This has got to end, because it's only going to get worse. Rose, thank you very much for that call. Look here, this is a great text from 508. Jeff, with all that's going on with these militant Muslims, the Democrats still insist that white supremacy is the #1 threat to America. That comment is either stupid or deliberate or both. Well, think about it. Of course it's stupid, and it is deliberate. When Biden brought in all these illegals, did you notice one thing? Very few of them were white. Millions and I don't care. I really don't care about skin color. But it's obvious their goal is what they call the Great Replacement. And they believe that the white race is a evil race that needs to be canceled out, that needs to be replaced. That's why when Trump brings in 59, not even 60, 59 white South African farmers, the Democrats go absolutely apoplectic. So you brought in 20 million, 59 white farmers, and you're going crazy about the 59 white farmers? These people are sick. Understand one thing. They hate themselves. They hate their country. They hate Western civilization. That's why they want to destroy it from within. Once you know that, everything becomes clear. Bye-bye.